Our main parking lot will also be there on the far side of the property.
So people are talking about parking in downtown Sydney again. And why? Well, the new location for the NSCC Marconi campus in the downtown is slated to open in September 2024. That's next year. And NSCC reps showed up at the CBRM Council telling mayor and council they need several hundred parking spaces in the downtown in addition to their own. Hi, I'm Joe Ward of Boxer Shorts Media, and discussions of parking with divided views of its importance or availability has long been a topic of controversy, certainly predating any announcement of the province moving the Marconi campus to downtown Sydney. When the new location was first announced, I was immediately curious about what the parking strategy was too. Parking seemed abundant in the former location, but downtown already needed the fire station, Mercer service station, and a local home to be demolished just in order to make room for the main building itself and very low capacity parking. Now, as park and rides were mentioned in the most recent CBC coverage, I laughed when an acquaintance named Jim noted that there was a big lot available, and that lot was at the current Marconi campus, suggesting maybe that the park and ride could run from there. But to be serious, a park and ride is one of the solutions I've been proposing, not only for the NSCC, but also for the completely jammed up lot at the Cape Breton Regional Hospital. The need to do so for both locations could make moving ahead with that scenario much more realistic. I get irritated every time I drive by the full lot at the regional hospital and imagine the stress that seniors, handicapped people, or very sick people showing up for scheduled appointments or to seek medical attention and only having to worry about figuring out where the heck to park. NSCC rep Carla Arsenault did note that they're considering other lots where they could shuttle students to the campus, aka park and ride, but the focus seemed to be on leasing parking spaces at Center 200. Interestingly enough, the Cape Breton Spectator reported in June of 2020, after working through a FOIPOP or Freedom of Information package, and noted that NSCC, Ivany campus in Dartmouth used the park and ride model with shuttles running every 15 minutes during peak hours. Clearly, this isn't a new concept for the NSCC. The Spectator noted that potential parking lot locations were redacted, but my bet is that they weren't as behind as they appear in their recent request. Center 200 was likely always on their list. They just didn't need to tell anyone until it was time to get the CBRM moving. When I asked the NSCC about parking back in October 2019, reps told me that they had issued 653 parking permits. They also said they had over 1,100 students as of 2018-2019, with 84% of them being from the CBRM, and those responding to a survey saying their commute was 20 minutes or less. And that's a reasonable car ride, but it's a long bus ride when waiting time is factored in, presuming there's space on the bus when CBU and NSCC peak ridership times overlap. Now, downsizing parking isn't actually that surprising if you know anything about trends in green building design. More of an objective and less so a mistake. The goal specifically is to discourage car usage and promote the use of active and public transportation or collaborative transportation like good old carpooling. But we do have to understand our own municipality and our own climate and be realistic about how successful we can be at getting students to transition to these options and how many are going to simply continue to rely on their car. There's no bus service in Lewisburg. And when I finish setting my curls with hairspray, I prefer not to have to walk too far in the rain, wind, or cold. But maybe that's just me. For now, we do have to make sure that if we entertain parking at Center 200 for uses other than attending Center 200, we got to make sure it doesn't interfere with events there. Presuming NSCC's schedule peaks from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, if we never have any events at Center 200 during that time, well, then I guess my next video might be about why the hell there isn't. But here's the thing. The CBRM doesn't need to get into a contractual agreement with the NSCC. We could actually just convert Center 200 into a controlled entry-exit parking lot with rates variable depending on the time of day and monthly permits supported at discounted rates. That way, NSCC students might be the primary users, but aren't the only users, and the lot can accommodate anyone else who enters the downtown area and needs a spot to park. And no, it doesn't mean that you have to start charging for parking at Eagles games. You just set the parking system, which will not be one that's as old as the Fortress of Lewisburg, like the one at the hospital right now, and it can be set to be free during the games. Or any other time a free lot is appropriate, like youth sporting events. We can just do it ourselves. Or We can make the NSCC pay for all that gear in full and have them concede that the lot isn't exclusive and that others can purchase passes or just pay per use with a modern ticketing system. If we don't do a contract, then we can simply downsize or stop using the lot whenever we choose without any contractual obligation to keep it going and no contractual obligations to violate. It might not be a bad solution, but I'd be waiting to take a very close look at all the annual events here at Center 200, as well as the typical weekly schedule to get an idea of how much conflict might arise, or if it'll all just roll out quite smoothly with no disruption whatsoever. I do find it odd that it almost appears as though this project that cost tens of millions of dollars and is almost completed, that we're just now trying to figure out the parking scenario. But as it is with bureaucrats and politicians, the request may only be a formality. They might have worked it out all behind the scenes over tea several years ago. So odds are they may just see if they can manage to get by with the Center 200 parking lot only, and then let the pressure created force students to figure out better ways for them to coordinate getting to school. The green building approach really was never about keeping everyone happy. It was about serving the greater good by being willing to put people in undesirable circumstances where their adaptation might be something preferable, like giving up cars and taking the bus. Now, I like the park and ride concept. Remember, that involves organizing dedicated shuttles to pick folks up at contracted parking lots and getting them to and from a given destination. In my case, it'd be the hospital and the NSCC campus, and I usually describe the underutilized parking space at the Mayflower Mall as a convenient location. Mayor McDougall will probably take a little heat for mentioning Walmart in the recent media coverage, but she's not specifically talking about parking rides in the formal sense. She's just noting that anyone could park their car at Walmart or at the mall and then grab a bus. And as long as NSCC suggests that option to their students, they might just find it convenient to do so. And since they're doing it on their own, there wouldn't even be a contractual agreement with the lot owners themselves. Everyone would just blend in with their staff and customers at any given location. To her credit, McDougall mentioned it before she was mayor in a David Jalla article about 4 years ago, referring to peripheral drop-off points. And that's a more formal way to describe park and ride or park and bus scenarios that I've just mentioned. So NSCC and CBRM Mayor and Council, no need for any theatrics, just get it done. And for NSCC, it might not be a bad time to survey your current students to see which of these options they'd be open to using, or rather which they might prefer. You have their addresses in your database for both current and prospective future students, so it's not as if you don't have a great idea where most of them are coming from. Figure it out ASAP. To make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, subscribe now to Boxer Shorts Media via your choice of YouTube or Facebook.
They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Please hang up and try again.